Hey, I want to print in 2 colors because bitches love 2 colors. Hey guys, Justin here from Tinman Electronics, and in this episode I want to be printing in 2 colors. I just recently got some green 3D printing filament, PLA 1.75mm from Jet 3D Filaments, and I've tested it out. It works pretty good, and I want to print the green with my black. If you guys have been following me on Twitter or Snapchat, you might know that I've been printing a whole bunch of 3D printed coasters, and like it's almost like an obsession. I just keep printing coaster after coaster. I've got one at work. I've got 2 of them at home. I think I gave one to my friends, and like, but they're just one color and not very nice. I've got my own custom design on them. Like I've got my face showing on these coasters, but they're hard to tell apart from the rest of the design of the coaster. Man, I love printing coasters, and like I put these little rubber feet on them, and like I drink coffee all the time, I drink tea all the time, and they're perfect. Like, and they're nice gifts too because they've got a custom design on them. And in this episode I'm going to be printing this coaster in 2 colors. So what exactly I want to do is I want to print the face of these coasters a different color, so I could really differentiate from the patterns and the design I put on the front. So this one, you can't even see it because it's all black. This one says Tinman Electronics, and it's a beautiful coaster, if I might say. But I really can't read it. So if I put the face of this a different color, it's going to look a lot nicer because it's actually cut out. Tinman Electronics, the word here, is cut out from the coaster. So if I put the face green and then behind it is going to be black, it's going to look nice, it's going to stand out, you're going to be able to read it, and I'm perfecting this art of making coasters, 3D printed like. Now, my friend wants a coaster, and her name starts with a K, so I am going to print a coaster with a big ass K on it. It's surprisingly simple to change the color of filament you're using halfway through your print. All you got to do is insert a bit of G-code, which I will link into the description down below. It's going to be a link to my website where there's going to be a little code section, and you could just take that G-code and put it in between your layers to successfully reproduce what I'm doing in this episode. So like I said, I just want to print the face in a different color, and that makes it super easy. There's only one color change. I'm going to print a couple layers of green, then I'll put in that G-code snippet and change the filament to black and print the rest in black. So that's very simple. There's only one change. And what exactly this G-code does is that at the end of a layer, it will just pause the print. Not just pause, but I mean it's going to do a couple things. It's going to release the extruder stepper motor and maybe pull back some filament so you don't ooze all over your print. It moves the print out of the way so that you're not keeping the hot extruder right over it. And at that point it pauses the print. You swap out the filaments, it re-engages the extruder stepper once you press the resume button, and it's super easy. But I did take a lot of like fuddling around. Like there's not much documentation online about pausing a print within Pronterface or Slicer, and I basically had to take a bunch of little pieces of knowledge which were all just kind of useless, and I figured it out, and it's pretty particular. A lot of places online say you just put in @pause and then that does it, but it didn't. Okay, it didn't work on Slicer, the version I'm using, and Pronterface, the version I'm using. And I tried M0, which is the stop command in G-code, except that doesn't successfully pause the print where I could press the resume button and it keeps going. If I could use it, then I would, because it's a proper G-code command, but no. So I play around with it, and then there's this particular solution. It's actually, I have to put semicolon @pause. And if it's not that, it's not going to work. If it's semicolon space @pause, it's not going to pause the print. And then you're going to be wondering, why is this not working? Tinman, why is this not working? And I'm going to say, well, it's because I told you it's semicolon @pause, all one word. And then Pronterface will recognize that and pause the print. So some sources, some forums said, if you put in @pause, In Repetier Host and Pronterface, it's going to pause the print, but that's not the case for my version of Pronterface, I guess. Like I said, semicolon at pause. Also, there's a really useful feature to determine which layer you are in your G-code. Instead of determining it by, taking your Z value and dividing it by your layer height and finding the layer that way, you could easily just go to the settings, go to your custom G-code, where you find your start G-code and your end G-code. There is actually a section for layer changing G-code. And what I just simply did is I put this little value that prints the layer number. So I just put in a comment of layer and then in brackets layer underscore num. And so what that does is that at the start of a new layer, it prints out which layer it's on, starting from 0. Now, without further ado, let's move on to printing this and testing out this 3D filament change. Okay, so the printer has stopped and it's ready to load some more filament. I don't suggest that you keep it in this position for long. You shouldn't be gone for more than, 5 minutes or so, because you don't want the print cooling unevenly. So I'm going to start printing, I'm going to start changing the filament that's loaded right now. And when I press the resume button, it's going to continue back from where I left off. So I could play around with the position of the extruder. I could change it in Pronterface and it will be not much of a problem. When I press the resume button, it'll go right back to where it was. So it literally took me about 30 seconds to swap out that filament. Now I have two options. Either I continue printing with the green PLA still molten inside there, so it could have a nice uneven kind of like gradient to the print, or I could start extruding right now and just kind of clear out the extruder to get a nice clean cut, clean finish between the green and the black, and that's what I'm going to be doing for this print. And I've also realized that the colors are not perfect at combining together. So what I mean by that is the black that I have is a very strong color. So when I'm clearing out the extruder with black, it doesn't take much. Like basically all the green comes out almost within, within 50 millimeters of extruding, okay? But with the green, when I'm trying to clear out the black using the green, it takes a lot longer. It takes a lot more filament to properly clean that out. So the filaments are different in that way. The way that they mix, that's something interesting that I'd love to explore. But let's get back to this print. There you go. We have a beautifully printed custom K-Dog coaster. Some of the things I want to note are that I printed this on bare glass so I could get a nice glossy finish on the top of this print. And then when I printed it upside down like that, just on its face, well, the overhangs, I had to support that up somehow. And I'm pretty sure my printer would be able to handle overhangs as large as this, but I just added this custom piece of support actually as part of the 3D model. I didn't generate these supports through Slicer because when it did, it turned it into something that looks less like the usual infill. So I made my custom support material, whatever. And as a whole process, this whole thing of changing the filament and all, it was pretty easy. I mean, once you get used to it, you just do it once, and then you'll be able to do it a jillion times over, no problem. Like, honestly, but there was one problem with this whole G-code script I added in, is that when I transitioned from green to black, and I pressed resume, the extruder went to the starting position of the next layer, and it extruded like 5 millimeters of black filament, and it made a little lump. It was gross, and it could have ruined my print. You know, maybe not here, but maybe in a future print, something that's not a coaster, a blob like that big could have possibly delaminated it. So I'm working on fixing that, and if I do fix it, then the code will be updated and properly documented on my website. I just want to remind you that the G-code script that I use for this video is in a link, which hopefully I could put actually in the description section down below, so check that out. And it is so worth it to print with 2 colors. Just depending on what you have to do, I just printed off 2 layers of one color and the rest of the black. But I mean, if you want to go 50-50 on your models, that's totally fine. It looks just as good, I bet. Check it out, guys. Now, to kind of bunch this all up, what I did is I just did the normal process of slicing my 3D model, then I went into the G-code and put in my little snippet, and then I started running that in my printer. Then when the printer pauses, you swap out the filament, press resume, and it just goes on its way. It's that simple, guys. So I hope this gives you cool ideas for your future 3D printing projects. If you do use these techniques that I use in this video, please let me know. I want to see what you guys do. If you like this channel, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to it, I mean, and then give the video a thumbs up. You can follow me on Twitter at JustinTinman, where maybe I'll put some beard pics, just kidding. And I have a website at www.tinmanelectronics.com. That's engineering, guys.